She said, "1 drink only." But the way she looked at me made it feel like a promise she didn't plan to keep. The house was quieter than it should have been. Music hummed low from an old Bluetooth speaker, something with a soft bass line that felt almost shy in the background. She stood by the counter, twisting the cork out of a bottle of red like she'd done it 1,000 times before. Smooth, practiced, but there was a tremor in her hand that didn't match the confidence in her eyes. I'd come to help her fix a loose kitchen shelf. My cousin's mom, Lydia. The title made her sound older than she looked. She was in her mid-40s, maybe a few fine lines at the corners of her mouth. Lines that deepened when she smiled, and made that smile look lived in, real. When she poured the wine, she didn't ask if I wanted a glass. She just handed it to me, her fingers brushing mine. Quick, almost accidental, but it didn't feel like nothing. "Cheers," she said, her voice low, warm. "To good help." I nodded. "To sturdy shelves." She laughed softly, the sound echoing too clearly in the quiet house. I took a sip to cover how awkward it felt, but the air between us didn't ease. Thickened. Her kitchen smelled like roasted garlic and rain from the open window. Her perfume was faint, something floral, like gardenia, clinging to the edges of her sweater. It wasn't the kind of scent you forget. "So, you really didn't have to come all the way over," she said, leaning against the counter. "Your cousin could have handled it." I shrugged. "He said you'd been waiting weeks. Thought I'd save you the trouble." "Emmett," she smiled, but her eyes didn't quite match it. "You're too kind for your age. Most guys in their 20s wouldn't bother." I didn't mind, and I didn't, but it sounded too simple for what I meant. There was a pause then, the kind that makes both people aware of everything. The way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the way my hand stayed too close to the wineglass, the hum of the refrigerator like a third presence in the room. "You always this polite?" she asked. "Depends who I'm with." Her gaze flicked to mine. Steady, unreadable. "Careful answer." "I mean it." Another small silence. Her eyes lingered just a second too long. Then she turned away, adjusting the strap of her sweater that had slipped down her shoulder. It shouldn't have felt like anything, but it did. "I should make dinner," she murmured, though she didn't move right away. "Or you'll think I invited you just for the company." I smiled before I could stop myself. "Did you?" That stopped her. Her back was still turned, but I saw her shoulders shift. A pause that said more than words. She finally faced me again, half smiling, half deflecting. "You're too young to ask questions like that. And you're too calm not to answer them," I said quietly. Her expression softened. Something between surprise and amusement, maybe a flicker of guilt too. She reached for her glass again, and this time, when she lifted it, her hand trembled slightly. "1 drink," she repeated, her tone a whisper now. "That's all." Outside, thunder rolled far off, and the lights flickered once. Like even the house couldn't decide whether to breathe or hold its breath. She looked up at me, eyes darker than before. "You should check that shelf before the storm knocks it loose." But neither of us moved. And then a knock at the front door. Her head turned sharply, lips parted. The glass in her hand tilted, a drop of wine spilling over her knuckles. She didn't wipe it away. The knock at the door turned out to be nothing, a neighbor asking about a blown fuse. When she came back, the storm outside had started to press against the windows. The air was heavier now, like the whole house had caught its breath and forgotten how to let it go. Lydia brushed past me to set her glass down, her shoulder grazing my arm. Just a moment, a touch, but my pulse reacted before I could think. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded too quickly. "Fine. Just, that man always shows up when I least expect it." I tried to smile. "Maybe he just likes your cooking." Her mouth curved, faint but real. "That'd make one of us." The laugh we shared was brief, awkward, too close. She turned away, tugging her cardigan tighter. I caught sight of a thin silver ring on her right hand. Not a wedding band, but it looked like one. I'd heard she lost her husband years ago. My cousin once said she never really moved on, but he said it like it was gossip, not grief. You still wear that? I said before I could stop myself. Her fingers froze over the ring. Habit, she said softly. Some are hard to break. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It carried something fragile between us. Something I didn't know how to name. I didn't mean, it's fine. She looked up then, and her eyes weren't angry, just tired. You remind me of him a little. That's all. That landed somewhere deep in me, deeper than it should have. I wanted to ask what she meant, but she'd already stepped toward the shelf, gesturing for me to follow. Let's finish before the power goes out, she said. I grabbed the screwdriver, focused on the task. But she leaned beside me, close enough that her breath skimmed my neck when she spoke. Right there, she murmured, pointing, her hand brushing my shoulder as she steadied herself. The scent of her, clean, faintly sweet, made concentration impossible. Like this? I asked, my voice lower than I meant. Yeah, just like that. Her fingers lingered on my arm, then pulled back so suddenly it almost hurt. I should check the oven, she muttered, though the oven wasn't even on. I let her go. The storm rumbled again. When she came back, she carried 2 mugs of tea instead of wine. Something safer, she said, setting one beside me. Probably smart, I said. You'd blame the wine for whatever this is. She blinked. Whatever what is? This weird thing between us. Her lips parted, then pressed shut. She didn't deny it. She just exhaled. A small, uneven breath that said too much. I told you, she whispered. 1 drink only. But when she handed me the mug, her hand didn't let go right away. Her fingers wrapped over mine, warm, trembling slightly. Neither of us spoke. The rain hit harder against the windows, and for a long, dangerous second, it felt like the whole house leaned in to listen. The lights flickered twice, then went out completely. The house sank into darkness, and the storm outside took over. Rain slanting hard against the glass, thunder rolling close enough to shake the floorboards. Lydia's voice came soft through the dark. Don't move. I'll find a candle. Her hand brushed mine as she stepped past. Just that, skin on skin, and something sharp surged between us. I could feel her breath when she turned back, searching the counter by memory. A drawer slid open, metal clinked, then a small flame bloomed to life. The candlelight caught her face in gold. Her eyes met mine, the reflection of the flame dancing in them. Everything around us felt suspended. Rain, air, breath. Like the world had stopped for a single held moment. She smiled faintly. Well, guess dinner's out. I don't mind, I said. Her gaze lingered too long again. Then she blinked, pulled back. You should probably go before it gets worse. I'd rather wait till it slows down. She hesitated. That could be a while. I've got time. The quiet stretched. She set the candle on the table, hands trembling slightly, then crossed her arms like she could guard herself from something unseen. You shouldn't say things like that, she murmured. Why not? Because people will hear them in ways you don't mean. I took a slow step closer. And if I did mean them? She didn't answer. Her throat moved as she swallowed, and the candle's flame swayed with her breath. The space between us felt alive, heavy, electric. You don't understand, she said quietly. I've been through enough whispers, enough looks. I can't. Who cares what they think? You will, she said. Someday. Thunder cracked again, so loud it made her flinch. Instinctively, I reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. Her fingers were cold at first, then softened against mine. I haven't done this, she whispered, her voice breaking on the last word. Not since he died. I wanted to say something that didn't sound stupid, but nothing fit. So I just held her hand a little tighter. In the candlelight, she looked at me like she was searching for an excuse not to. Lydia. Her name came out barely a sound. She took a small step forward, close enough that her sweater brushed my chest, close enough that the scent of wine and tea lingered between us. My heart thudded against the quiet. Her eyes flicked to my mouth, then back up. You should go, she whispered again. But this time her voice wasn't steady. Then a vibration. Her phone lit up on the counter, cutting through the dark. Call from Daniel, my cousin. We both stared at it. Neither moved. The ring stopped. She reached past me to silence it, her shoulder grazing mine. When she turned, we were inches apart. The heat from her body felt louder than the storm. "This is wrong," she said, but her voice trembled. "Then tell me to stop thinking about you." She didn't. The candle flickered once, sputtered. She closed her eyes, and for half a breath, I thought she'd let it happen. The kiss, the crossing of the line. But she stepped back instead. Barely. Just enough to hurt. Her voice came out barely a whisper. "Tomorrow. Come by tomorrow. We'll finish the shelf." Outside, thunder rolled again. But this time, neither of us moved. She opened the door before I knocked. Her hair was damp, pulled back loosely, and the light from the kitchen window fell across her face in soft strips. For a second, she looked like someone else, younger, less guarded. "I didn't think you'd actually come," she said. "You asked me to finish the shelf." Her lips parted. Maybe to protest, maybe to agree. But she only nodded and stepped aside. The house still smelled faintly of rain. A towel hung from the chair, and the candle from last night sat half-burned on the counter. She moved differently now. Slower, quieter, like every motion carried the weight of what almost happened. I set my bag down and reached for the screwdriver. "You sleep at all?" "A little," she said. Then, after a pause, "You?" "Not really." The words hung there, obvious. We both knew why. I worked in silence, tightening the last screws. Lydia leaned against the counter behind me. I could feel her gaze, steady, almost physical. When I turned, she looked away too late. "You're avoiding looking at me?" I said softly. She smiled without humor. "You're very sure of yourself." "I'm not. That's the problem." Her expression shifted, not quite a smile, not quite defense. She walked closer, resting one hand on the edge of the counter beside me. Her perfume, faintly floral, a trace of last night, mixed with the smell of wood and rain. "You think this is some kind of game," she murmured. "I think it's the first thing that's felt real in a long time." That made her look up. Her eyes softened, then hardened again, quick as a shudder. "You shouldn't say things like that." "Because you might believe me?" "Because I already do." The silence cracked open between us. She exhaled shakily, brushing a hand through her hair. When it caught on a strand, I reached out without thinking. Freed it from her fingers, tucked it gently behind her ear. My thumb grazed her cheek. She froze, eyes flicking from my hand to my mouth, then back up again. "Don't," she whispered. I lowered my voice. "Tell me to stop." Her breath hitched. "You have no idea what this could cost." "Then why are you shaking?" She let out something between a laugh and a gasp, tears threatening at the corners of her eyes. "Because you make me forget how old I am." I took another step, close enough that the counter pressed against her back. My hand rested against the side of her neck, fingers tracing the line of her jaw. "I don't see your age," I said. "I see you." Her hand came up, not to push me away, but to hold my wrist, lightly, like she didn't trust herself to let go. Her voice was barely audible. "If you kiss me now, everything changes." "I know." For a long, electric second, nothing moved. Her breath mingled with mine, warm, uneven, trembling. The air felt charged enough to split. Then, a sudden knock on the door. Her eyes widened. My cousin's voice, muffled but unmistakable. "Hey, you here, man? Mom said you were fixing the shelf." Lydia's hand fell from mine. Her lips parted, a silent plea or warning. I stood frozen, inches away, heartbeat hammering in my throat. Outside, the door handle began to turn. The door swung open before either of us could move. My cousin Daniel stood there, dripping from the rain, grinning like he'd just saved the day. "Power's back. Thought I'd check in on Mom's miracle handyman." Lydia's voice broke first.
Daniel, E.
Her tone was too bright, too careful. She stepped away from me, fast enough that her hip bumped the counter. A wine glass rattled, caught before it fell. Daniel didn't seem to notice. "You okay, Mom? You look, flushed." "Hot tea," she said quickly. "It's just warm in here." He nodded, oblivious, turning to me. "Man, thanks for helping her out. You didn't have to spend all night fixing a shelf." All night. The words landed hard. Lydia's eyes flicked to mine. A warning, pleading and sharp at once. "Wasn't all night," I said. "Just longer than planned." Daniel shrugged. "Cool. Well, I grabbed your charger from my place. You left it last week." He tossed it toward me, then turned to his mom. "Oh, you didn't tell me you were selling the house." The air froze. "What?" I said before she could answer. Lydia's jaw tightened. "Daniel," he frowned. "What? You said you already talked to the realtor." The silence that followed was different this time, heavier, colder. She looked at me, then away. "You're selling?" I asked. "It's not finalized," she said. "Just something I've been thinking about." "When?" Her voice was small now. "For a while." Daniel, clueless, checked his phone. "Anyway, I'll grab food. You too good." Lydia forced a smile. "Fine." When the door shut behind him, the quiet that followed was unbearable. "You were going to leave," I said. "I was trying to find a way out," she whispered. "From what?" "From me." Her breath caught. "Don't make this harder. Hiding it makes it worse." She turned, pressing her palms against the counter, shoulders trembling. "You think this is about shame? It's about survival. People talk. Your family, my family. I don't care what they say." "Well, I do," she snapped. The sound cracked in the air like glass breaking. Then softer. "You weren't supposed to matter this much." I stepped closer before she could move again. Too late for that. Her breath hitched as I stopped just behind her. The scent of rain clung to her hair. My fingers hovered near her arm but didn't touch. "Not yet." "You could have told me," I said. "I couldn't," she said, voice shaking. "Because if I did, I wouldn't have let you go." The admission hit harder than any confession could. She turned slowly, her face inches from mine. There were tears, yes, but also something raw, defiant. "I've been lying to myself," she whispered, "pretending this was temporary, that I could pack up, leave, and forget your face." I didn't breathe. Her hand rose, hesitant, resting against my chest. Not pushing, not pulling, just feeling the proof that I was there. "Then don't," I said. She stared at me, torn open by what she already knew. "If I stay, you'll ruin me." "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe I'll save you." The rain outside picked up again, hard, relentless, as if echoing the heartbeat between us. She didn't step back this time, not even an inch. The house felt too small for the two of us. The rain outside had dulled to a steady hiss, the kind that made every sound inside louder. The tick of the clock, the uneven rhythm of our breaths. She hadn't moved since I said it. "Maybe I'll save you." Her hand still rested on my chest, her pulse trembling against my skin like it couldn't decide which way to run. "Say something," I whispered. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. She just stared at me, eyes bright, scared, alive. Then she turned away, fingers dragging down the fabric of my shirt, like she was letting go of something she didn't want to lose. "I don't know how to do this," she said. "Do what?" "Let myself want something that could ruin both of us." I took a breath and closed the last of the distance between us. "Then don't think about what comes after." Her shoulders rose, then fell. "You talk like it's simple." "It is. Right now it is." She faced me again, slow, deliberate. The space between us collapsed, not from a decision but from the lack of one. Her hair brushed my cheek as she tilted her head up, and for a heartbeat, it was just breath. Hers, mine, tangled in the stillness. "You'll regret this," she whispered. "Maybe," I said, "but not tonight." The words broke something in her. I could see it, the fight she'd been holding on to finally slipping. Her hand came up to my neck, fingers trembling as they found the edge of my jaw. The touch was hesitant, then certain, like she'd already imagined it 100 times. "Tell me this isn't wrong," she said. I met her eyes. "It's real." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of everything we hadn't said, everything we'd been pretending not to feel. She leaned in, slow enough that I could have stopped her, but I didn't. Her forehead touched mine, and I felt her exhale, shaky, warm, surrendering. My hands moved to her waist, resting there, uncertain whether to hold or to wait. Then she whispered, "If we do this, there's no pretending tomorrow." "I don't want to pretend anymore." Her mouth was a breath away from mine, the moment suspended, stretched thin by everything it meant. And then she kissed me, not softly, not neatly. It was clumsy, desperate, too honest to be perfect. The kind of kiss that felt like falling, like every wall we'd built finally giving way. When we finally pulled apart, her eyes stayed closed, her hand still pressed to my chest. "I shouldn't have," she murmured. "I know. But I wanted to. I know that too." She opened her eyes then, steady, clear. The fear was still there, but something else had replaced it. "Whatever happens now," she said. "No more hiding." I nodded. "No more lies." Outside, the storm had passed. But inside, the air still carried its electricity. Quiet, charged, irreversible. The morning light was soft, that pale, forgiving kind that made everything look gentler than it really was. Lydia stood by the window, a mug in her hand, her hair unbrushed, the curve of her shoulder framed by sunlight. We hadn't said much after the storm ended. Words felt too clumsy for what had already changed. I watched her for a while, the rise and fall of her breath. The house was quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the faint drip from the roof outside. It felt like a pause between heartbeats. She turned, meeting my gaze. "You're staring," she said, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Just making sure this is real." "It's real," she said softly. Then, after a moment, "That's what scares me." I got up, crossed the space between us. The floor creaked under my steps. "We don't have to rush it." "I know." She looked down at her mug, then set it aside. "But people will talk. They always do." "Let them," I said. Her eyes lifted to mine again. Not searching this time, but steady. "You really think it's that easy?" "No," I admitted. "But I think you're worth the hard part." Something in her expression softened then. A quiet surrender, the kind that isn't dramatic, just true. She reached up, fingers brushing the side of my face, her thumb tracing the edge of my jaw like she was memorizing it. 22, she murmured. "Do you even know what you want yet?" I smiled. "I didn't. Not till now." Her laugh was quiet, almost shy. "You shouldn't say things like that." "I mean them anyway." She leaned in, resting her forehead against mine. The warmth of her skin, the steadiness of her breath. It felt like an answer to every question we hadn't asked. Outside, the rain had stopped completely. Sunlight spread across the kitchen, catching on the half-fixed shelf, the burnt-out candle, the 2 empty mugs. Ordinary things holding something new between them. "I thought I was done feeling like this," she said quietly. "Feeling what?" "Wanted." Her voice broke on the word, small but certain. I slipped my hand around hers, interlacing our fingers. "You never stopped being that." She exhaled slowly, eyes closing, as if she'd been waiting a long time to hear it said out loud. Then she smiled. Not the polite kind, but the unguarded one. The one I'd seen in flashes and wanted to see again. The world outside moved on. Cars passing, birds calling. But in that small kitchen, time seemed to rest. When she opened her eyes again, the fear was still there, but it had softened into something else. Acceptance, maybe even peace. She squeezed my hand once, firm, final. "Then I guess we'll just have to live with it," she said. "Together," I said. "Together," she repeated, and it didn't sound impossible anymore. We stood there a while longer, close but quiet. 2 people who had finally stopped pretending they were supposed to be anything else. And for the first time, the silence felt safe. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Asterisk asterisk.